Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at a legendary television sketch today featuring the absolute comedic giants Mo and Akhtar and Anwar Maqsood from their iconic show, Loose Talk. Now, on the surface, this is just an interview with an arrogant butcher right before the Islamic festival of Eid al-Adha, which, if you didn't know, is a time when the meat trade absolutely booms. But as we're going to see in this explainer, this classic sketch brilliantly hides some surprisingly deep socio-economic critiques right behind its rapid-fire humor. It's honestly a masterclass in using comedy to hold up a mirror to society's broken systems.
And man, the hook of this sketch is incredible. The interviewer barely gets a single word out before the butcher launches into this incredibly aggressive threat. Listen to this. If you call me a Kasai on Eid, the treatment we give the goat, I will give to you before Eid without even reciting Bismillah. Wow. It instantly establishes this chaotic satirical tone for the whole interview. The butcher isn't just sitting there passively answering questions. No, he's dominating the conversation, completely flipping the traditional power dynamic of a TV interview right on its head. He's instantly on the defensive, yet somehow completely on the attack.
Section 1. The weight of a word. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how language acts as an actual battlefield. Our first major socioeconomic theme is this intense class pride and the specific nomenclature tied to the butcher profession, especially during the crazy lucrative season of Eid al-Adha. You see, it's not just about what you do, it's about what you're called while you do it. The core linguistic conflict of the sketch kicks off because the interviewer keeps using the word kasai. That's the common, everyday, colloquial term for a butcher. While our character vehemently rejects this, he demands the formal dictionary term, kasab. This highlights a really profound and maybe a bit misplaced class pride. He feels his craft is being disrespected by street slang. He wants the dignity of that formal title, kasab, refusing the term kasai so strongly that he literally threatens violence over it. It's such a fascinating look at class consciousness among blue-collar workers.
And you know, this pride stems from his deeply ingrained belief about his role in the world. The butcher makes this grand argument that society can survive without education, progress, water, electricity, or even health, but it absolutely cannot survive without meat. Let that sink in. He genuinely believes that no matter how expensive meat gets, people are always going to buy it. This worldview completely sets the stage for his massively inflated ego. In his mind, he holds the ultimate market dominance because, well, he supplies society's most non-negotiable necessity. He literally sees himself as more vital than scientists or politicians.
Section 2. The economics of absurdity.
So that overwhelming sense of self-importance brings us to what happens when the government actually tries to step in and regulate a supplier who thinks he's the center of the universe. This is where we see the massive conflict between the butcher and the local government administrators, who are called Nazms in the sketch. These local Nazms tried to enforce strict market caps: mutton at 150 rupees a kilo, boneless beef at 90 rupees, and beef with bone at 80 rupees. Now, from an administrative standpoint, these are just mandated figures meant to protect consumers during a crazy high-demand holiday season. But as we see playing out, the butchers completely reject these government caps, and that creates the primary, hilarious conflict of the whole interview.
So the crucial point is that out of all those numbers, one really stands out: 150. That 150 rupees becomes the recurring point of contention throughout the entire sketch. Literally, every time the interviewer brings up the government's mandate of 150 rupees for mutton, the butcher completely loses his temper. That specific number serves as the ultimate symbol of the government being totally, hopelessly disconnected from the on-the-ground reality of the meat markets. In fact, his response to this 150 rupee mandate gives us one of the funniest and most telling lines in the whole piece. He yells, "Even if I birthed the goat myself, I wouldn't sell it for 150 rupees a kilo." I mean, it's a hilarious, totally absurd visual, right? But it powerfully illustrates the butcher's absolute rejection of the government's economic policy. He actually goes on to insult the Nazms, basically saying that if they possessed any actual thinking capabilities, they wouldn't just be local administrators. To the butcher, this mandate isn't just bad business, it's a personal insult to basic logic.
Section 3. Extortion and dark reality.
Now, the government isn't the only force trying to take a cut of the butcher's profits, and this forces us to ask a really serious question that's disguised as a joke. Who really controls the market? Is it the government with their official 150 rupee mandates, or is it the extortionists? The interviewer specifically brings up the concept of bata, which is extortion money or an illegal protection tax. This inquiry frames a very dark urban reality, basically pointing out that official policies mean absolutely nothing if a shadow economy is the one actually calling the shots. And the way the butcher describes these bata collectors, it's just a masterstroke of dark comedy. He notes that they show up to collect illegal taxes, but absurdly, they possess this extreme anatomical knowledge of the goats. He claims these extortionists can extract kidneys, livers, and heads far faster than the actual professional butchers can. And if that wasn't enough, they deliver curses so intense and creative that according to the butcher, even a dead goat on the table starts to smile. It's incredibly funny, sure, but it perfectly highlights the utter helplessness of the working class here. The butchers can easily defy the government, but they are completely powerless against the organized crime syndicates extracting this butter.
Section 4. Fake butchers and true greed. Let's move to this and see how this builds.
We talked about class pride, government failure, and mafia extortion. Now we introduce the final theme, the sheer, unchecked, opportunistic greed that just floods the market. Because meat is in such ridiculously high demand during the festival, it attracts a massive influx of imposters trying to cash in on the Eid economy. The sketch illustrates this with a brilliant comparison, selling 10 grams of gold in Karachi versus selling 10 grams of meat. The butcher shares this story about confronting a guy he knows to be a jeweler, someone who normally sells video recorders in gold. When he asks why the guy has suddenly opened a butcher shop, the jeweler replies that the profit margin on 10 grams of meat in Karachi is currently way higher than the profit margin on 10 grams of gold. It's a sharp critique of unchecked greed, showing how a sacred festival gets turned into this chaotic free-for-all where everyone, regardless of what they actually do for a living, rushes in to exploit the consumer.
So, what happens when you combine government-mandated low prices with greedy imposters? Well, you get the ultimate punchline of the sketch. The interviewer points out that some butchers actually are selling meat at the government's 150 rupee price point. The butcher responds that at 150 rupees a kilo, when the knife cuts the meat, it produces the sound of a barking dog, not a bleeding goat. And this brilliantly illustrates the horrific consequence of a totally broken market. If a vendor is actually complying with that impossibly low price tag of 150, they aren't performing some economic miracle. They're likely selling fraudulent, unhygienic, or literal dog meat. It's a hilarious but deeply grim warning to the consumer.
This brings us to the end of our explainer, and I really want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. Is the real joke here the stubborn, arrogant pride of the butcher demanding to be called a kasab? Or is the real joke the entirely broken socio-economic system surrounding him? A system filled with out-of-touch government nozems, highly skilled extortionists, and jewelers selling dog meat just to turn a quick profit. Muin Akhtar and Anwar Maqsood used comedy to show us that the market isn't just about supply and demand. It's about human nature, survival, and pure absurdity. I hope this deep dive gave you a brand new appreciation for how satire can unpack our really complex realities.